Lydia Harrow denied Black CEO Adrian Cole entry to Meridian Crown's vault lounge while his trust countermand still glowed on her screen. When she signed the denial, the vault corridor sealed, the private elevator froze, and every token on the floor turned red. Adrian had seen her choose the false reason code, so why had he asked her to leave it exactly where it was? "Vault access is not available to you today," Lydia said. She stood before the frosted brass doors with one hand on the concierge terminal and the other near a silver token pad. Behind her, through the glass, Adrian could see the soft amber light of the vault lounge, the leather chairs, the walnut witness desk, and the untouched water carafe reserved for clients who had already been accepted. His appointment line sat on her monitor. A. Cole. Vault witness. Trust countermand. Cutoff 2 p.m. Lydia saw it too. She dragged a narrow window over the line before the junior associate beside her could speak. Adrian kept his passport open in his palm. "I have a 1:30 appointment with Sella Ward." "Ms. Ward is a vault officer," Lydia said. "Vault officers do not receive walk-ins." "I'm not a walk-in." "You are not cleared on this desk." Her voice was low enough to sound private and clear enough for the clients behind him to hear. A man with a folded newspaper glanced at Adrian's jacket, then returned to pretending not to. Adrian looked at the reason menu on Lydia's screen. Identity confidence failure. She had not scanned his passport. She had not asked for the second phrase. She had not called the vault corridor. "Is that the reason you intend to certify?" he asked. Lydia's thumb paused above the token pad. "I will certify what this desk requires." "Please leave the reason exactly as selected." For 1 second, she looked unsure. Then pride covered it. Lydia pressed her thumb to the pad and signed. 3 seconds later, every brass seam in the private banking floor flashed red. A bolt drove home inside the vault lounge door. The safe deposit corridor sealed with a mechanical cough. The private elevator stopped chiming and went dark above the marble vestibule. A calm voice came from the ceiling. "Fraud containment lockdown. Remain where you are." Lydia stared at the red light on her token pad. Adrian closed his passport. That morning, Adrian had stood in a room that still smelled faintly of old oil, though the machines were long gone. Cole Systems occupied 2 floors of a renovated brick plant at the edge of Morrow Yard. Its software helped cities and utilities keep track of bridges, pipes, substations, and rights-of-way before neglect became a crisis. Adrian liked work that looked boring until it saved someone who would never know his name. Below his office windows, the old rail spur cut through the yard in rusted lines. His father had worked there for 26 years before a bank letter made his pension smaller than his labor. The pension had vanished behind one checkbox. Adrian was 14 when his father came home with a folder and sat at the kitchen table without removing his coat. The bank administering the pension plan said one form had been submitted late, one beneficiary line was inconsistent, one signature was not acceptable, and therefore the account had rolled into a dispute category no branch employee could explain. Every letter used the same phrase: insufficient documentation. His father never received the full pension. He received a settlement so small the bank called it good faith, and his mother called it grocery money with a lawyer attached. Adrian kept a copy of that letter in a file marked "Never Again." At 9:12 that morning, his attorney, Mara Wynne, placed a different folder on the conference table. "This is the countermand," she said. Adrian opened it. "Wet signature only? Wet signature. Vault witness before 2 p.m. Meridian Crown won't accept a scan." They accepted the first instruction electronically. They accepted it through a concierge access exception. Mara had handled the Morrow Yard Community Trust from the day Adrian funded it. The trust kept the old plant, rail spur, and 3 surrounding blocks from being sold to North Sable Partners, a shell buyer planning luxury storage units under a friendlier name. Adrian could have bought the land outright. He refused. The community board held governance. Meridian Crown held escrow because the city required an institutional custodian. This morning, that requirement felt like a locked room with polite carpet. Mara tapped the folder. At 1:17 last night, Meridian received a transfer instruction moving the trust's option rights to North Sable. Who signed? Not you, not the board. The instruction claims prior delegated authority under a file access exception. Can they process it without us? Not if your countermand is witnessed at the same access level before cutoff. Why the vault lounge? The original trust documents are stored in the lounge records suite. Their own protocol says a contested paper instruction must be countered at vault witness level. Adrian looked through the window at Morrow Yard. At noon, the community board would gather in the old break room downstairs. Retired machinists, a church treasurer, 2 tenants from the row houses, a high school robotics teacher, and his mother would be there, trusting that routine paperwork could protect a promise. He had not told them the transfer had been staged. Panic without action was just noise. What if they slow walk me? He asked. Call me. What if they deny access? Mara paused. They cannot deny the principal if authentication clears. That is not the same as saying they will not. No, she said. It is not. At 12:38, Adrian left Cole Systems with the folder, his passport, the council letter, the appointment code, and a sealed document tube containing the board's ratification copy. He brought his operations director, Theo Banks, because Theo had grown up 3 blocks from Morrow Yard and understood the difference between a trust instrument and a promise. Meridian Crown Bank filled the bottom floors of a limestone tower downtown. The public lobby had ceilings high enough to make ordinary voices feel inappropriate. The private banking entrance was not marked with a sign. It was marked by the absence of waiting. A concierge in a gray suit scanned Adrian's appointment code and directed him to the 22nd floor. The private elevator rose without stopping. Theo stood beside him, holding the document tube. Feels like a place that can lose your paperwork and charge you storage, Theo said. That is why we're early. The elevator opened onto marble, brass, and carpet thick enough to swallow footsteps. A curved concierge desk guarded the vault lounge. Beyond it sat 2 frosted doors with handles that turned access into theater. Lydia Harrow looked up before Adrian reached the desk. She wore a cream blazer with a Meridian crown pin at her collar, still in the way of someone who believed she could decide the temperature of a room. At the secondary terminal sat Benji Vale. He saw Adrian and typed the appointment code before Lydia asked. Good afternoon, Adrian said. Adrian Cole for Cella Ward. Vault witness appointment. Benji's screen populated first. Adrian saw recognition move across the young man's face. Lydia's face moved differently. It sorted him, not by name, by fabric, by folder, by Theo standing 1 pace behind him with no tie, by the absence of a banker's leather portfolio. Are you delivering materials for the Cole file? She asked. I am the Cole file. Benji looked down fast. Lydia's smile held. Are you here on behalf of Mr. Cole? I am Adrian Cole. She glanced at her screen. That designation does not appear at this desk. It appears on the appointment. External appointments can be mislabeled. Adrian placed his passport on the counter. Scan it. We are not at that stage. What stage are we at? The stage where I direct you to the public reception area until your role is confirmed. Theo shifted behind him. Adrian did not turn. Theo's anger had a way of entering a room before his voice did. Adrian said, Call Cella Ward. Ms. Ward is a vault officer. That is why I asked for her. Vault officers do not receive unverified parties from the concierge desk. Then verify me. Lydia's gaze dropped to the passport, then to the paper folder. Serious vault clients do not arrive with contested paperwork in hand. Benji said quietly, Ms. Harrow, the appointment line says trust countermand. Lydia did not look at him. Use client-style view. Benji hesitated. Now, please. He touched a key. The screen changed. The fuller instruction disappeared beneath a bland external appointment label. Adrian watched the act and felt the old pension letter stir in his memory. Insufficient documentation was not always a lack. Sometimes it was what remained after someone hid the sufficient part. Mr. Cole, Lydia said, you may wait downstairs. I have a 1:30 vault witness appointment. You have a pending external note. I have a cutoff. That is not visible to me, because you hid the view that showed it. Lydia's eyes hardened. I'm going to ask you to lower your voice. My voice is already lower than yours. Adrian looked at Benji. Print the Q status for the Morrow Yard file. Lydia answered first. He will not. Benji's hand remained near the printer. Adrian said, if the file is not in Q, the printout will prove me wrong. You are not authorized to request internal Q documents. Then deny the request in writing. She smiled again. You seem fond of records. My father was ruined by one that lied. That sentence was for himself more than for her. Still, it landed. Lydia leaned closer. This is not a place for personal grievances. No, Adrian said. It is a place where grievances become documents. The cutoff clock sat in his mind with mechanical clarity. 1:22 p.m. 38 minutes. Inside the vault corridor, Sella Ward checked the witness room for the third time and looked at the empty chair across from hers. Sella trusted locks more than people, but only because locks admitted what they were built to do. The witness desk held 2 cameras, a chain of custody scanner, a wet signature pad, and a metal tray calibrated to weigh document envelopes before and after access. It was the least luxurious surface on the private floor, which was why Sella preferred it. Her tablet showed the appointment. A. Cole. Arrived? Pending. She called the concierge desk. Lydia did not answer. Sella tried the internal chat. No response. At the Fraud Operations Center 3 floors below, Priya Knoll watched a dashboard that almost never showed a pattern clean enough to trust. Her current review had begun with a widow named Imani Bell, whose safe deposit envelope had been out of tray balance for 11 minutes during a disputed access window. Then came a grocery escrow with a voice mismatch that had never been called, and a family trust client sent to public lobby while a substitute document moved through records. 3 cases, same token family, same pattern, client redirected, identity doubt logged, vault access exception opened, 11-minute document window, clean closure. Priya had asked for live monitoring on LH7. At 1:23, a live denial draft appeared. Token LH7. Client Adrian Cole. Reason, identity confidence failure. Appointment type hidden by client style view. Linked file, Morrow Yard Community Trust. Priya sat upright. The system would not lock on draft. It needed a signed certification or a paired exception. Suspicion was not containment. Containment had rules. She opened the live feed from the 22nd floor and saw Adrian standing at the vault lounge desk with his passport open. She saw Lydia's hand on the terminal. She saw Benji look like a person deciding whether the rest of his life would be quieter if he did nothing. At the desk, Lydia began to build the denial form. Identity confidence failure? Adrian asked. That is the appropriate code. You have not scanned my passport. You declined to follow concierge direction. That is not identity. You are arguing with the process. I'm asking you to perform it. Benji stared at the denial fields. Theo leaned closer to Adrian and spoke under his breath. We can call Mara. Not yet. We can call the bank chair. Not yet. Adrian. Adrian heard the warning in his name. Theo did not scare easily, which made the concern matter. If I use a board contact, Adrian said, they will make this about executive access. It is about access. No, it is about the signature that made access disappear. Benji looked up then. He understood enough to be frightened. Lydia typed, client presentation, inconsistent with vault profile. Adrian said, please include that I presented a passport, appointment code, counsel letter, and trust countermand folder. I will include what is relevant. Then include that you refused to call the vault officer. That is not relevant. It is if the vault officer is waiting for the file, you are preventing her from witnessing. Lydia stopped typing. Mr. Cole, you may be accustomed to people rearranging procedures when you recite enough terminology. That is not how this desk works. Who told you I was accustomed to that? The question caught her. She recovered. I am speaking generally. You called me a messenger before asking my name. You are carrying a document tube. Clients carry document tubes. Clients have profiles. Clients have passports. Not all passports create vault eligibility. Theo's hand tightened around the tube. Adrian kept his eyes on the token pad. Will your signature certify that you personally completed identity review? Lydia's chin rose. It will certify that I applied concierge judgment. That is not the field. Benji's printer made a small mechanical sound. Lydia turned. Benji. The young associate had hit print before fear stopped him. He pulled the receipt from the tray and held it at his side. Lydia extended her hand. Give it to me. Benji did not move. Adrian said, Mr. Vale. Benji looked at him. You do not need to hand it to me. You need to decide whether the record leaves this desk. Lydia's voice dropped. Benji, your rotation review is next month. His face went pale. For a moment, the floor contained no sound except the hush of the ventilation system and the faint tick of Lydia's nail against the terminal. Benji folded the receipt once and slid it across the counter to Theo, not to Adrian. Theo took it. Morrow Yard Community Trust. Transfer instruction pre-staged 1:17 a.m. Concierge exception pending. Witness bypass pending. Initial token. LH. Adrian read it once. The room narrowed around the words. If Lydia denied him and certified identity doubt, the bank could claim a contested principal had failed access. The false transfer could move without direct confrontation. He had not been delayed by arrogance alone. Arrogance was the tool. His phone vibrated. Mara. North Sable sent final confirmation. If countermand not witnessed by 2 o'clock, they will attempt execution. Do not leave the bank. Adrian looked at the clock. 1:31, 29 minutes. Lydia reached for the receipt. That is internal property. Theo tucked it inside his jacket. So is the trust. Fraud Ops received the discrepancy 12 seconds later. Benji had used the internal channel, not email. Priya watched the receipt attached to the live denial draft and felt the pattern click too cleanly to ignore. She pulled the 3 prior cases onto the second monitor. Amani Bell. Safe deposit access loss. 11 minutes. Rafiq Nasser. Escrow voice mismatch. No call record. Cho Family Trust. Public lobby redirect. Substitute document weight change. Now, Adrian Cole. Trust countermand. Concierge denial. Witness bypass pending. She called Sella Ward in the vault corridor. Did you request a concierge denial for Cole? No, Sela said. He should be here. Have you received the countermand? No. Do not open any related document tube without me. I am a vault officer, Priya. Good. Then you know why I sound like this. Sella looked toward the records room, where private banker Damon Kells stood near the internal pneumatic station with a sealed envelope in his hand. Damon saw her looking and smiled. He had the smooth face of a brochure and the relaxed shoulders of a man who believed cameras were for other people. Sella had never liked him, but dislike was not evidence. Banks were full of people Sella did not like. He lifted the envelope. Morrow file finally moving? Sela did not answer. Damon's smile thinned. At the concierge desk, Lydia opened the final signature screen. Last opportunity, she said. Wait downstairs while we confirm your role. Adrian looked at her. Last opportunity for whom? Her eyes narrowed. He could end it now. Mara had given him the chair of Meridian Crown's governance committee for emergencies. One call would bring people with titles and apologies. It would put Adrian in the lounge, maybe even save Morrow Yard. It would also teach the record nothing except that a wealthy black CEO could escape a machine that kept eating people without his title. His father had not had a governance number. Mrs. Amani Bell had not had one either, whoever she was. Adrian set his passport flat on the counter. Finish the form. Theo turned to him. Adrian, finish it, Adrian said again. Lydia looked from Adrian to Theo, then to Benji. She mistook their fear for proof of her power. She pressed her thumb to the token pad. At 1:34:07, token LH7 signed the denial. The private floor changed shape. The vault lounge bolts engaged first, then the safe deposit corridor, then the records room door. The pneumatic tube station paused mid-cycle and vented pressure with a soft, angry hiss. Elevator access dropped to emergency mode. Every client tablet turned red. A calm voice came from the ceiling. Fraud containment lockdown. Remain where you are. Do not remove documents from secure surfaces. Lydia lifted her hand from the token pad as if it had burned her. What did you do? She whispered. Adrian picked up his passport. I let you sign what you were already doing. Priya's secure line rang through the concierge terminal before Lydia could answer. Benji flinched. Lydia smoothed her jacket with both hands and accepted the call. This is Lydia Harrow, senior concierge. We have a client disturbance triggered by an overactive system flag. Priya's voice came through flat and clear. This is Priya Knoll, fraud operations. Do not characterize the event. State whether you performed passport scan, secondary phrase verification, and vault officer contact before certifying identity confidence failure. Lydia's lips parted. Adrian watched the calculation move behind her eyes. I applied concierge judgment based on presentation and behavior. That is not the question. The client was combative. Did you scan the passport? Lydia said nothing. Priya continued. Did you request secondary voice phrase? No answer. Did you call Sela Ward? Lydia looked at Benji. Benji looked back at the red screen and did not help her. Priya said, Miss Ward is on the line. Sela's voice came through next. I was waiting for Adrian Cole's countermand. Concierge never called me. Lydia said, the person at my desk did not match the Vault Lounge profile. Adrian said, you hid the profile view. Priya answered before Lydia could. We have screen capture. Lydia went still. Fraud ops did not usually move this fast. That was the part she had not known. Priya said, Benji Vale, are you present? Benji cleared his throat. Yes. Did you send the Q receipt? Yes. Did Ms. Harrow instruct you to use client-style view? Benji looked at Lydia. Lydia's eyes told him what his review would become. Benji said, yes. The word shook, but it stood. Priya said, thank you. Do not touch the terminal. What? In the records room, Damon Kells tried the handle. It did not move. Cameras watched the access table, the envelope scale, the pneumatic receive slot, and the door. Damon held the Morrow Yard envelope in his left hand and the replacement packet in his inside jacket pocket. He placed the envelope on the access table and smiled at the nearest camera. Routine file review, he said. No one answered. At the desk, Priya asked Lydia, why does your token appear on a concierge exception at 1:17 a.m. for the Morrow Yard Community Trust? Lydia regained a fragment of her voice. System autofill. The token log requires biometric pad or paired band proximity. Then someone used my station. Your station was offline at 1:17. That's impossible. And it was paired to a portable pad. Portable pads require your band within 3 feet during the initial pairing. Lydia's eyes flicked, not toward Adrian, but toward the Vault Lounge door. Adrian saw it. So did Benji. Theo leaned toward him. Damon? Maybe. Priya said, Ms. Harrow, did you authorize Damon Kells to use a paired concierge band? No. The answer came too fast. Sela cut in. Damon is in records. Priya said, records room is locked. Camera live. Lydia's face drained of professional color. The lockdown had done what no confrontation at the desk could have done. The logs put every title in order. At 1:38, Regional Private Banking Director Malcolm Greer reached the frozen elevator vestibule and could not enter. The lockdown did not care about titles. Priya, release the floor, he said through the wall panel. Containment protocol outranks regional override during active document risk event. Malcolm's face appeared on Lydia's wall screen. Ms. Harrow, what happened? A client became disruptive and the system overreacted, Lydia said. Priya answered, before anyone continues, live audio, screen capture, and token logs are preserved. Malcolm stopped. It was the first useful silence the bank had produced since Adrian arrived. Mara called Adrian at 1:40. He answered. Are you in the lounge? She asked. No. Tell me you were at the witness desk. No. Adrian, the floor is in fraud lockdown. For once, Mara had no immediate sentence. Then she said, how much time? 20 minutes. Can Sela witness during lockdown? Only through emergency containment protocol, Priya said through the terminal. It requires three things. Scylla must log physical custody of the countermand, fraud ops must preserve the records room feed, and regional override must remain suspended until the document risk event is sealed. Mara heard enough through Adrian's phone. Then do that now. Priya's answer came slower. If we do it now, containment on records may lift before Damon interacts with the replacement packet. Adrian understood before she finished. How long do you need? 3 minutes. Mara said, no. Theo said the same thing from behind him. Adrian looked at the clock. 1:41, 19 minutes. Priya continued, I have suspicion. I have prior pattern. I have Lydia's false certification. I do not yet have Damon performing the swap. Without that, the prior victims may remain trapped in dispute language. Mara's voice sharpened. The trust is not evidence bait. No, Adrian said. It is not. He looked toward the frosted doors. Somewhere beyond them, in a records room he could not see, a man with a better suit than conscience was waiting for the system to breathe. Theo stepped close. Your mother is downstairs with the board. Adrian closed his eyes briefly. He pictured the old break room at Morrow Yard, the chipped table, the coffee urn, his mother's purse set on her lap like she was waiting at a clinic, men and women who had watched developers rename their streets until home sounded like an investment product. He opened his eyes. Priya, he said, if we wait 3 minutes, can you still open the witness slot before cutoff? I believe so. That is not an answer. It depends on Scylla's manual confirmation and whether the lockdown keeps the document tube frozen. Mara said, Adrian, sign now. Theo said, she's right. Adrian looked at Lydia. Lydia stared back with something close to hope. Not hope for truth. Hope that Adrian would choose himself, end the lockdown, and leave Damon with enough fog to survive. That decided him. 3 minutes, Adrian said. Mara swore under her breath. Theo stepped back, jaw tight. Priya said, containment window extended. Scylla's voice came through a second later. I have to log the tube without opening it, Mr. Banks, place it on this pass-through tray when it extends. Do not remove your hand until the scanner light turns white. A steel tray slid from a locked panel near the lounge door. Theo set the document tube on it. The scanner flashed red, then amber. The amber held too long. Why isn't it clearing? Theo asked. Scylla leaned closer to her side of the glass. The ratification seal is facing down. Can I turn it? Slowly, one hand. Keep it in camera. Theo turned the tube. The light flashed white. Custody logged. Scylla said, do not touch it again. At 1:42:16, the records room vent clicked. Damon looked up. The lock had not released. The pneumatic tube remained paused. He checked the camera again and took the replacement packet from his jacket. Priya enlarged the feed. Scylla watched from the vault corridor monitor. Lydia whispered, Damon, don't. She did not mean to speak aloud. Priya said, audio noted. Damon placed the original Morrow Yard envelope on the calibrated tray. The tray recorded weight. He placed the replacement beside it. Then he took a thin opener from his sleeve. The camera caught the motion. So did the weight log. Priya said, capture complete. At 1:43:02, Scylla received emergency witness authority. The vault lounge door did not open. The metal witness panel beside the corridor unlocked instead. Scylla appeared behind a glass partition with a document scanner and a plain steel counter sliding out from the wall. This is not the lounge, Lydia said, too softly to matter. Adrian walked to the counter. Theo stayed beside the locked tube. Scylla scanned the appointment, passport, council letter, and board ratification. She did not ask whether he belonged. She asked questions the record could answer. State your full name. Adrian Michael Cole. Capacity. Principal donor and authorized countersignatory for Morrow Yard Community Trust. Purpose. To countermand an unauthorized transfer instruction dated today and preserve current trust control pending investigation. Do you understand the bank is under fraud containment and this witness record is preserved? Yes. Scylla slid the pen through the pass-through slot. His hand was steady until it touched the paper. Then the old pension letter came back, his father at the table. His mother standing by the stove with her arms folded, not crying because tears would have given the bank too much room. A phrase on letterhead making a life smaller, insufficient documentation. Adrian signed. Sella stamped the countermand at 1:59:43, 17 seconds before cutoff. The room did not cheer. Theo let out a breath that sounded like pain leaving through a locked door. Mara, still on the phone, said, "Tell me that was the stamp." "That was the stamp," Adrian said. "Do not ever do that to me again. I will try to find new ways to disappoint you." "Not funny." "No." He ended the call. The lockdown stayed in place. That mattered. If the story had ended with Adrian's signature, the bank could have called it a customer access problem and paid for silence in expensive paper. Instead, Priya kept the floor sealed, while Damon sat in records with an opener in his hand and 2 envelopes on a tray that knew their weight. At 2:08, internal security entered the records room. Damon did not resist. Men like Damon often believed resistance was for people who lacked language. "This is a misunderstanding," he said as they took the opener. Scylla stood at the glass. "Then the tray will understand it." Lydia sat behind the concierge desk with her token band removed and sealed in a clear evidence bag. Without it, her wrist looked strangely plain. She watched Damon pass in the corridor and waited for him to look at her. He did not. That was the moment her face changed. Not when Adrian was denied, not when the lights went red, not when her token failed. When the man she had protected chose not to recognize her in return. Priya came up to the private floor at 2:20 with a laptop and 2 sealed printouts. Bankers stepped aside for her because the red lights had taught them whose questions mattered. She stopped at the concierge desk. "Ms. Harrow, your token privileges are revoked pending termination review and referral." Lydia looked toward Malcolm Greer, who had been allowed onto the floor under escort. "Malcolm," she said, "I made judgment calls under pressure. Damon told me these were routine client management issues. The lounge has standards, we all know that." Adrian turned toward her. "Standards for whom?" She stared at him. The old answer was still in her. She was smart enough not to say it. Benji did. His voice came from the secondary terminal, small but audible. "Atmosphere for whom, Lydia?" Her head snapped toward him. He flinched, but he did not take it back. Priya placed the first printout on the counter. Imani Bell, safe deposit access denial, 11-minute envelope discrepancy, token LH7. The name made Lydia blink, recognition, then irritation. She was confused, Lydia said. Priya placed the second printout beside it. Rafiq Nasser, escrow voice mismatch, no voice call placed. He was hostile. Hostile where? In tone. Priya looked at the screen. No audio record. He made staff uncomfortable. Which staff? Lydia said nothing. Malcolm Greer cleared his throat. We should move this review off the client floor. Adrian said, this is the client floor where it happened. Malcolm looked at him with the practiced sorrow of a man preparing institutional vocabulary. Mr. Cole, I want to apologize for the access irregularity you experienced today. No. The word cut cleaner than anger. Malcolm stopped. You do not get to call this irregularity before the audit begins. Priya's mouth tightened, almost a smile. Malcolm adjusted. Of course, we will conduct a thorough internal review. Not internal only. Mr. Cole, every denial, every identity confidence failure, every concierge exception using LH7, Damon Kells, paired bands, or 11-minute document windows. Independent review, written notice to affected clients. No release from me until that is committed. Malcolm's eyes cooled. You are in a difficult emotional state. Adrian stepped closer. My emotional state just preserved your fraud case. Theo made a sound behind him that might have been a laugh if the day had been different. Sella brought the stamped countermand in a sealed sleeve and placed it before Adrian. Morrow Yard is held. He did not touch it yet. How close? 17 seconds. That is not a margin. No, Sella said. It is a warning. At 2:47, Mrs. Imani Bell arrived. She had not been invited by Meridian. Priya had called her because the old case had become active evidence. Mrs. Bell was 73, small, and dressed in a green coat too warm for the season. Her daughter came with her and looked ready to bite through a bank vault. Lydia saw them and looked away. Mrs. Bell did not. "That's her," she said, then walked to the concierge desk. "You told me my access phrase did not match." Lydia's voice was almost inaudible. "I followed the record." "You made the record." No one corrected her. Mrs. Bell turned to Adrian. "Did you get yours back?" "Yes." "Then don't stop at yours." "I won't." Priya answered the question before Adrian asked it. "The weight tray logs show a discrepancy in your case. Damon's capture today gives us grounds to reopen archived footage and compare envelope records. I cannot promise recovery yet." Mrs. Bell's daughter said, "That is more than we got in 2 years." Lydia whispered, "I didn't know Damon was switching envelopes." Mrs. Bell looked at her. "But you knew I was being kept out." Lydia's mouth trembled. "I thought you were confused." "No," Mrs. Bell said. "You needed me to be." That sentence did what the lockdown had not. It reached the human place under the evidence. Adrian thought of his father, and for one painful second, he wished the old man could stand in this room and hear someone say it that plainly. By 3:30, the private banking floor was closed for the rest of the day. The vault lounge lights stayed on behind locked doors, soft and useless. Benji sat with Priya in an interview room and told the truth badly at first, then better. He admitted he had seen Lydia use client-style view before. He admitted he had kept quiet because he was new, indebted, and afraid. "Preserving one receipt does not erase prior silence," Priya said. "I know." "Good. Then start with the silence." Sela gave her statement without drama. Times, screens, calls, document weights, corridor status, custody clearance, and the stamp at 1:59:43. Lydia's interview lasted longer. Damon's attorney arrived first. Hers came later. That fact seemed to injure her more than the revoked token. At 4:05, Malcolm returned with a draft statement. Adrian read it once. "Isolated client access irregularity," he said. Malcolm held his hands open. Draft language. "No. We cannot accuse employees before process is complete. You can describe process honestly. We are trying to avoid unnecessary alarm. You already created necessary alarm and buried it under marble." Malcolm's jaw tightened. "Mr. Cole, your trust was preserved. That is not the end of the matter. It is your matter." Adrian looked at Mrs. Bell, still sitting near the glass with her daughter. He looked at Benji through the interview room window. He looked at Sela carrying the stamped countermand in a sealed sleeve instead of a leather folder. "My father's pension was stolen by a paperwork issue," he said. Malcolm softened his face too quickly. "I'm sorry." "You don't know him?" "No." "You know the language. Insufficient documentation, identity confidence, access irregularity, client confusion. It makes people vanish without admitting anyone pushed." Malcolm had no polished answer for that. Adrian returned the statement. "Try again." At 5:12, Meridian Crown committed in writing to an independent review of concierge denials, vault access exceptions, paired token usage, and all 11-minute document windows for the previous 18 months. The review would include Bell, Nasser, Cho, Morrow Yard, and any client tagged with identity doubt before direct authentication. Affected clients would receive written notice. No release would be requested from Adrian until the review opened. Priya would be seconded to the independent team. Benji would move out of private banking and into fraud support, not as a reward, but because the audit needed someone who knew where the desk hid things. Lydia and Damon were suspended pending termination and referral. Their badges did not reactivate. The vault lounge closed for 2 weeks. The public notice called it a procedural integrity review. Adrian hated the phrase less than the first draft. Hatred was not the measure. Usefulness was. At 6:40, after the last interview, Sela led Adrian to the witness counter one more time. Not the lounge. A plain metal inspection table under 2 cameras. No amber light, no leather, no tea service. Theo stood on one side. Priya stood on the other. Sella placed the supplemental confirmation before him. This confirms the countermand is accepted and Morrow Yard remains under current trust control, she said. Adrian signed. This signature felt different. It did not beat a clock. It joined a record. Sella stamped it and slid him the sealed copy. You could have signed in the lounge once it reopened, she said. I don't need the lounge. No, Sella said. You needed the witness. He looked at the brass doors down the hall. So did everyone else. When Adrian returned to Morrow Yard, the community board was still in the old break room. They had eaten the sandwiches Theo ordered, argued about calling the news, and taped a handwritten sign over the coffee urn that said, "We are not selling." His mother sat at the end of the table with her purse in her lap. She looked at his face before she looked at the folder. How close? 17 seconds. The room went quiet. Adrian set the stamped countermand in the middle of the table. It's held, he said. No one cheered at first. They read the stamp before letting good news enter the body. His mother touched the seal with one finger. Your father would have asked for 3 copies, she said. I made 5. That made her laugh, and the sound loosened the room. Later, Adrian opened the old metal filing cabinet in the corner. It had once held maintenance logs for stamping presses. Now it held the kind of documents people ignored until someone tried to steal a block with them. He placed the sealed countermand inside. Then he added one more thing. The Q receipt Benji had printed. Morrow Yard Community Trust, transfer instruction pre-staged. Witness bypass pending, a small receipt, thin paper, almost nothing, enough to make a room tell the truth. Adrian closed the drawer and let the cabinet lock click. Outside, evening settled over the rail spur and the broken windows of the old plant. The city had spent years trying to rename this place into something easier to sell. Tonight, the name on the trust still held. His phone buzzed. A message from Mara. Your father's letter is not the ending anymore. Adrian looked at the cabinet, then at his mother helping Mrs. Alvarez fold the sign over the coffee urn. He typed back, No, it's evidence. Then he put the phone away, because some records belonged in rooms with people, not just systems that could be locked against them.